Partaya pratibodhitam bhagavata narayanena swayam vyasena gratitam purana munina matye mahabharatam Advaita amrita varshinim bhagavatim ashtadasha atyayinim ambatvam anusandadhami Bhagavad bhavadveshinim. O Mother Bhagavad Gita, I repeatedly meditate on you who are the 18 chapters in the middle of the Mahabharata, composed by the ancient sage Vyasa, taught for the benefit of Partha by the Lord Narayana himself, the goddess, the shower of the nectar of Advaita, the enemy of rebirth. Yachapi sarva bhutanam bijam tadaham arjuna natadasti vina yatsyad Maya bhutam chara charam.
Arjuna, I am also that which is the cause of all things. There is no mobile, sentient or immobile, insentient things that exist without me. That can exist without me.
Krishna has concluded listing or enumerating the vibhutis by verse 39. He says, Aham sarva bhutanam bijam asmi. In other words, I am the seed, which is referring to the material cause out of which all of the bhuta, referring to the 5 elements, have emerged. I am that which makes up the jagat. When we say I am that, it refers to my material cause called upadana karanam. Out of that cause emerged the world called the jagat. For example, if you think of clay, it is the material cause of all of the earthenware, considering if all earthenware are made of that one same clay. So in this way, the clay is the material cause of all of the infinite varieties of different forms that are made out of that one upadana karanam. We also use the example of ornaments. So whatever, how precious or brilliant or shiny that ornament is, or how beautiful and how valuable in the eyes of, in our minds, that ornament, however it's made and complex it is and worthy of writing about, it is still made of that one gold. So even if it's the simplest ornament or the most brilliant in its complexity, it is still the one same upadana karanam, the same material cause. We also use the example of wood. So if we have different wooden furniture and all of the furniture serves a different purpose, some of them are for sitting, some of them are for building a roof. However we look at it, they're all made of that one same upadana karanam, the wood. So this means that the material cause, what is the material cause? Upadana karanam, and that belongs to Ishvara, because Krishna is speaking as Ishvara. So that one material cause can be known through the very existence, through the effects. So this means if I look at the effect, then do I have to go on chasing for the cause? No. So this means whatever effect I see, it is never separate from its upadana karana, from its material cause. So when you say, for example, the ornament is, that isness belongs to what? The upadana karanam, called the gold. So the ornament cannot claim its ownership or its status independently, because the fact that it's claiming is also made out of the upadana karanam. Its very glory that it enjoys is an effect of the upadana karanam. Therefore, whatever glory we see or experience is an effect of my upadana karanam, of my cause. In this way, the ornament enjoys its nama rupa. Isn't that what we experience in life? It's always about names and forms. Wherever there is a name, there is a form attached to it. So all of the names and forms that the ornament enjoys and talks about and makes money about and gets a lot of followers on whatever platforms, and people worship this ornament, whatever it enjoys belongs to the one gold. In other words, its existence is borrowed from the gold, from the same gold that makes any other ornaments. Whether that ornament is an ordinary ornament at home and not popular, or whether that ornament is very popular, it is still made of the same upadana karanam, the gold. So this brings the vision of oneness, how everything here is not separate from that one cause being Ishvara. So what Krishna is saying is, I am the nimitta karanam, which means I am the efficient or intelligent cause, and I am also the upadana karanam, which means the material cause, which lends existence to the very effects in this world. And we call the effects vibhuti. In effect, it's also a glory or manifestation. So I am the nimitta karanam and upadana karanam for effects experienced or witnessed in this world, whether they are known or unknown, whether we have yet to discover them through science or whether they have already been discovered. I am still the intelligent cause and the material cause of them. For example, some years ago, maybe 200 years ago, we only imagined putting a tube in the sky. So that was in potential. So when we finally create that tube, as a result of what? Observing the aerodynamics of the bird. So we borrow, and what's the aerodynamics of a bird? Nimitta karanam and upadana. So we look at that nimitta karanam and we go, how can we replicate this? And how can we build something that replicates what is already available? In other words, this entire world that we experience is nothing but observing parts of nimitta karanam and then replicating it in order to enjoy ourselves, in order to create something that is functional. For example, if you say the rock is, if I have a piece of rock here, and I say the rock is, what's the rock made of? Well, it depends on what material, because rock has different materials. So suppose it's made out of granite. So now you say granite is. So rock is only because of upadana karanam, nimitta karanam. Granite is because of upadana karanam, nimitta karanam. Now what's granite made of? Quartz and feldspar. So now you say quartz is and feldspar is. Also because of upadana karanam, nimitta karanam. Now you go, well, what's quartz made of? Well, it's made of 1 part silicon and 2 parts oxygen. So now you say, okay, well, oxygen is. So you keep going smaller, 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 even to the levels that we have yet to explore. So now why is it not 3 parts oxygen and 2 parts silicon? Because if it was, then it wouldn't be what? It wouldn't be quartz. So the fact that it's the exact part of oxygen and plus the exact part of silicon is what? Nimitta karanam. There's an intelligence because of which when you combine 2 molecules, it makes another nama rupa, which is by its combination plus feldspar equals granite, and that granite equals rock. So at every single level that we see equals nimitta karanam, upadana karanam, and we can never escape that. Therefore, I am that existence called sat, when you say sat-chit ananda, because of which these 2 laws, nimitta karanam and upadana karanam, express and create this world. In other words, they manifest this world. So we can say it like this. At every level of manifestation, I am sat, existence. And how does this sat manifest from the standpoint of jagat? As nimitta karanam and upadana karanam, from the smallest subatomic particle all the way to the rock. At every level that we see, from the smallest to the largest, perceptible or imperceptible, how does this sat manifest from the standpoint of jagat? As nimitta karana upadana. Now watch my language. I did not say the sat manifests. I said this because what is sat? Nirguna. So you can't say now nirguna manifests, because that means nirguna is now changing. So sat, from the standpoint of its two laws, only to its maya power, when those two laws come together, then we have this world of intelligence. Now, if we connect this to verse 20, so we're in verse 39 now, and we're talking about sat. And what is verse 20 talking about? Krishna says, I am chit. So, sat chit ananda. So he's ending with sat, and he started glories with chit. That's when he began listing his glories. So, chit, that is, I am the awareness pervading all existing objects, including the silicon, the oxygen, the quartz, the feldspar, the granite, and the rock. So not only am I existence, but the truth of this existence is chit, awareness, consciousness. So now if we combine these two verses together, verse 20 and verse 39, we get, I am sat-chit, I am existence awareness, which obtains in and through all names and forms. And this is illustrated by the verse, Maya vina yat characharam bhutam syat tat na asti. So, nothing in this jagat, whether it is moving or non-moving, can exist without my blessing. And what is this blessing? We just said, sat-chit. Okay. So if anyone ever asks you, who is God? How do you reply? Who is God? Why? Because the H is upadana karanam, nimitta karanam, the W is upadana karanam, nimitta karanam, and the O is upadana karanam, nimitta karanam. Who is God? Because the words themselves are also not separate from sat-chit, and that is who God is. So Krishna started with chit, that is, he started with awareness in verse 20, and he ended with sat existence now in verse 39. And both sat and chit are nirguna vibhuti. So obviously now you can't say that in this case vibhuti means what? You can't say that it means manifestation or the effect, because nirguna is not a manifestation or the effect. What does vibhuti in this case mean? Glory. Yeah, good. So you have to use the context, right? So both of them, verse 20 and verse 39, are nirguna vibhuti, and verse 21 to 38 are all saguna vibhutis. So all of those vibhutis we'll be talking about, Ganga, Yamuna, and Himalaya mountains, all of that is all saguna. The only ones that are nirguna are verse 20 and verse 39. Now next verse, Bhagavan is going to say, I cannot continue listing my glories because there are too many to list. So I have to stop listing them. Nantosti mama divyanam vibhutinam parantapa eshatu deshataf proktaha vibhutir vistaro maya.
There is no end to my extraordinary glories. Arjuna, the scorcher of foes, but this detailed narration of glories was told by me, taking into account a few important ones.
Here Arjuna is called Parantapa, the last word on top. Parantapa means the one who is always victorious. So despite the hardships that we undergo in life, end of the day, he or she is always victorious. Why are they always victorious? What is the only way to be victorious in life? Are you victorious by going through various self-help seminars? Only for a short while. The only way to be victorious is through the scriptures, because the scriptures are the very essence which holds the person in the right direction, and they can never direct themselves off track. Therefore, Arjuna is that one who is victorious. Why? Because he's listening to the words of Bhagavan. So this means you can create all of the seminars in this world with the best knowledge, but the one who is victorious is the one who follows the words of Bhagavan himself, the one who created this world and expresses itself as nimitta karanam and upadana karanam. So Krishna says here, there is no end to my glories because, or my vibhutis, because there's too many. Now I have to put an end to them. So now you ask, well, why did you start listing them in the first place? And the answer is because Krishna wanted to show that wherever there is brilliance, never forget Bhagavan in that brilliance. So he's just giving a small sample to help us stimulate our minds, to have a little bit creative thinking, and to go, okay, so next time I'm in life and my jaw drops, I'm surprised, I'm taken back, remember Bhagavan there. Instead of looking at it at the surface level and going, wow, what an amazing person who can juggle balls, 40 balls. See Bhagavan in that. Now, the next verse is going to tell us a method how Arjuna, whether Arjuna is a male or female, doesn't matter, can extend the list even further. So we have gotten glories between verse 21 and 38. Of course, that includes verse 20 and 39 for the Nirguna. But now, how do we create our own glories throughout life? Because chapter 10 has come to an end. So we don't leave you now going, okay, well, I need to go back to chapter 10. So we need to think on our own now. So let's see how to create our own glories. Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam Shri madurjita me va tad tad eva vagachatvam mama tejom shasambhavam.
Whatever existent thing there is, which has glory, which is endowed with any form of wealth, or that which is mighty, every one of that, may you know, is born of a fraction of my glory.
Whatever makes you wonderstruck, or inspired, or moved, or gives you goosebumps, or like positively, like wow, in that sense of awness, that is Bhagavan's Shri. Everything beautiful, everything attractive. So, Shri means the most attractive. Whatever makes you wonderstruck, inspired, that is Bhagavan's Shri. That means that is Bhagavan's glory. For example, the energy of the sun. We'll just create our own examples that we haven't used. Think about the sun. The sun is the simplest principle there is in our galaxy, in our solar system. It just shines. There's nothing, what is there to say about the fact that you shine? Do you need to do anything than just to shine? So it does the simplest principle of just shining. It doesn't do anything other than shining. So there's nothing to know about shining. You don't need to be a genius to know, okay, how does it shine? It just shines. It's obvious that it shines. And yet, the simplest does what? It provides life for every single organism from the past, the present, and the future. All civilizations have prospered because of that simplest principle in our solar system. Even if you say something about the sun or don't, the sun remains independent. In fact, it is only because of the sun's shining that I can say something about the sun, because the sun gives food to the plants, and I need the plants in order to say something about the sun. So the simplest principle in our solar system is the very reason why everything else we can do in this universe. Like we can think about the universe, we can explore the universe, we can enjoy ourselves, civilizations can prosper, we can explore, and so many levels, all because of that which doesn't require any intelligence to know about. It is so obvious and so simple. So the simplest is the most powerful, the most important. So that's the energy of, if you think about that thought, that's what it means to go, wow, the sun, something so simple. And who pays attention to the sun? Like while you're having a job interview or having some conversation, who actually turns up to the sun? If you think about it, the only way I'm having a conversation with you outside is because of the sun, and yet nobody talks about the sun. In fact, it is goofy to talk about the sun. It's like, it's so obvious that people don't even talk about the sun. And yet, it is because of that simplest, ordinary, obvious principle that everything else in this world gets to happen, day by day, moment to moment. Or if you think about the glory of lightning, We don't get that in Australia, unfortunately, that often. But glory of the lightning, that powerful, thunderous boom, every time it strikes, the person thinks of something much bigger, like, wow, so powerful, so strong. So immediately the thought of God starts to come. Or another glory is children, especially when they're young, and just that nice, the innocence and the way they're just open and the way they're just available and non-judgmental. So that's another glory of Bhagavan that we have. Or a human-animal relationship, different bodies. The Stula Sharira is completely different. And yet there's something universal that is equally understood between a human being and an animal. That's definitely another glory. In fact, we have a lot of cat and dog videos, and you can type in like a relationship between tiger and man, or crocodile or in South Africa there's a lion man also. And and they're different, but there's a understanding there. And you don't even have to use words to have this understanding. So that's another glory that we can contemplate on. Another is a waterfall, like Niagara Falls or the Victoria Falls. If you go to one, then you'll see this thunder, it's powerful, and the rainbow effect created. Or even the rainbow itself is another glory. If you're in a city with concrete jungle or concrete buildings, and then out of nowhere there's this colorful rainbow. So it just brings so much joy to people's hearts. So that's certainly another glory that we can appreciate of Bhagavan. So the point is, to recognize these glories also depends on how rajasic or sattvic the mind is. If the mind is highly rajasic, then the best it will recognize in most cases is how to have glory of fame, status, materiality, or news. So it will pay attention to glories of the news, to what's the circumstances of the world. But if the mind is highly sattvic, then it will look much deeper through all of these circumstances that happen in life, day by day. So this is one reason why we have many great men and women with great skills, like a violinist or a music player or a singer, and they go completely unrecognized in life. Nobody recognizes them. Why? Because they're so brilliant that we cannot even understand where they're coming from. Or we have many great books written even, and they're so well made that because the author is not known, we completely miss out on that glory of that author. And who usually gets the authorship today is the ones who promote themselves. And what does it mean to promote oneself? Rajaguna. That means not in all cases, but that means a very active mind. So therefore, just the fact that I'm promoting myself actively represents my own mind, and that represents that my thinking is probably not that deep as a mind of a sattva guna dominant mind. So this means the ability to pick out the vibhuti depends on the mind itself. Now, the word Shri Mad. See the word Shri Mad? Bhagavad Gita is called Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. So what does the word Shri Mad mean? Anything that is endowed with Shri. So when we say Shrimad Bhagavad Gita, the word Shri Mad means anything endowed with Shri. What does the word Shri mean?
Wonder or attractiveness or beautifulness.
Okay, now, what is the word, when we say Shrimad Bhagavad Gita, what does the word Gita mean? The divine song. Divine song of whom? Bhagavan. Divine song of Bhagavan's Shri Mad. The most sacred divine song that mentions everything about Bhagavan's Shri Mad. So the next question is, what is this Shri of Bhagavan? And the answer is in the very word itself. Because what does the word Bhagavan mean? That word Bhaga means sixfold sovereignties. Sovereignties is that which is independent of something else. So if I say that Bhagavan is wealth, the total wealth, that wealth does not depend on any other wealth. So that means it's the absolute wealth. So Bhaga in the word Bhagavan means sixfold sovereignties. What's the first one? Shri, absolute wealth, all the resources. There is no higher wealth than Bhagavan. That means Bhagavan is the total wealth in the universe. That means Bhagavan does not borrow his wealth from elsewhere. He is the source from where we borrow wealth from, Bhagavan's Shri. The next one is Aishwarya, absolute overlordship, absolute authority. This means there's no higher authority than the laws of Bhagavan. Nobody can go outside Bhagavan's laws. In fact, all laws are because of Bhagavan's laws and orders. That means no one has more authority in this universe than Bhagavan himself through his Triguna Shakti. And then we got Yashaha, this is the third fold, which means absolute fame. So, us humans, we all have a little bit of fame here and there. Some of us are only famous in certain environments. Even a music singer is only famous where? In a, maybe a 200,000 people. Or if you're Michael Jackson, you're going to be famous 300,000, maybe 300 million people. So there is a fame. Everyone has their little bit fame. Like I'm famous in my family, I'm important to my children, important to my mom and dad, so on. However, Bhagavan is that which is the highest fame. Because when all things go wrong, to whom do we turn to? Bhagavan. We don't turn to Justin Bieber or Michael Jackson or these other various characters. We all turn to that one which is the highest fame of all. Therefore, all fame that we have, we are borrowing from Bhagavan's absolute fame called Yashaha. And then Vairagya, absolute dispassion. This means there are no favorites for Bhagavan, which means we cannot now say that Bhagavan prefers one religion over the other or one race over the other. Only a human being or a human mind can think like this, only to its raga dvesha. So in other words, all of us, no matter who we are, whether a jnani or ajnani, are attached to something. Even Ramana Maharishi was attached to the Arunachala mountain. Or, they're attached to something small. It could be even a thought or something. There is vairagyam, but it is not absolute vairagyam like Ishvara, which is completely detached from this universe. The fifth one is jnanam, absolute knowledge. Human beings, or animals even, all of us have some knowledge here and there. Some of us know how to cook, but we don't know how to program. For example, I know JavaScript, but I don't know C#. Someone knows how to do archaeology, but they do not know how to sing. So all of us have small sections of knowledge here and there. But Bhagavan is that one to whom all of these sections of knowledge belong. In other words, Bhagavan is absolute knowledge. All of the knowledge that we enjoy is because of Bhagavan's absolute jnanam. And the last fold is absolute power. That means in terms of creation, sustenance, and destruction. So human beings, for example, we create a baby, but we don't create all of the babies in the universe, in the world. We create a house, but we don't create a house and a butterfly and the weather and the clouds and the rain. So Bhagavan is that one who creates everything, sustains everything, and destroys or changes everything. But Bhagavan is that one which is the power because of which every human being can create, sustain, and destroy. And on top of that, Bhagavan is that one because of which the entire universe past this earth can also be created, like new wormholes, new supernovas, new galaxies. They're also sustained and they're also dissolved into Bhagavan. Jagat Vibhutis, between verse 21 and 38. Notice I did not say verse 20 and verse 39 because that is not Jagat Vibhuti, that is Nirguna. They are all parts of these sixfold Bhaga. Why do we experience parts? So even though Bhagavan is partless, only to Maya Shakti, this world, Jagat, appears manifold. That's why we have so many different trees, because everything is parts of this Shri. different aquatic creatures. Everything is a part of this Shri. Or different kinds of knowledges, that means relative knowledge, geography, science, chemistry, because it is all part of this fifth fold called Jnanam. If you, for example, take the one partless space, the space seems divided in reference point to bottle space, the space inside the bottle, in terms of the room space, the bathroom space, the cup space, the mouth space, the lung space. So in reference points to different objects, that one space seems divided. So now we can't say that there are two spaces, because is the space inside this bottle different from the general space that accommodates not only the earth but accommodates this entire universe? No. But from the reference point of this bottle, it appears like it's different. But it's not. Now, why is it not different? That's the more important question. Why is the space inside not different from the space outside? Think about this.
Because if you move it, the space stays the same.
Okay, good. Okay, what does the space inside do? Because of it, it accommodates whatever it is inside the bottle. Now, that same space also accommodates everything outside the bottle. So space is what? Attributeless. So the space inside is attributeless, the space is outside attributeless. How do we know? Because the very space inside accommodates whatever is inside. And the very space outside also accommodates whatever is in space. In other words, the space remains inherently attributeless. It never takes on the attributes, because I can put one gas inside this bottle and then take out that gas, and I can put another gas and I can see clearly. Now it's green gas inside and now it's blue gas inside. In other words, the previous green gas has not contaminated the space with green. So the moment the green gas leaves, it is available to accommodate another kind of attribute. So this means the attributes only have their glory because of the one attributeless principle, which is space. And that space, whether it is inside, called Atman, that means consciousness from the standpoint of a human being, or whether we're talking about the total space, what's the commonality? It is attributeless. Now, how do we prove that Tom's consciousness is the same as Jivata's consciousness? How do we prove that that there's one Atman which remains attributeless? Because we often say my consciousness, your consciousness.
Because the awareness of any object is recognized by both.
So if I have two objects, for example, a bull, and I have a cat, and we have two people observing the bull. So now, what do we now see? Now all of us are looking at what? The bull. So the moment we turn our attention onto the cat, are we still seeing the bull?
No.
We're now experiencing fully the cat. So we are freed of the thought of the bull and ready to accept the new object called the cat without having any bull superimposition over the cat. We don't see horns on the cat, do we? We don't see bull attributes superimposed overshadowing the cat, do we? No. So the moment our attention changes, that means we are both, or however many people are free to experience the new object without having the previous thought interfering. In other words, just like space, the moment I take out green gas and I put in blue gas, do I still see green gas? No. In other words, why? Because space remains always attributeless, ready to accept the new object that it accommodates. Understanding?
I actually understood, like with the bottle, it's your body, and the space, the same space in the bottle is the same space outside.
Yeah.
So the same Atma in hers is the same Atma in every one of us. That's how I saw it.
That's 100% correct. That's what I was getting at. But I didn't say that because I want you to get that. That's how the teaching takes place. Yeah. So I don't say directly. Okay, so from this knowledge, we can now draw 2 points that I just explained. The first point is that the glories listed here are for the purpose of meditating upon them. That means inquiring on Saguna Ishvara. Why? Because it benefits the Ajnani. It benefits the mind that is yet to remove Rajaguna and create a more subtler intellect that's able to discern between Atma and Anatma, Nirguna, Saguna. So it is for the benefit of a Ajnani. Why is it for the benefit of Ajnani? Because when the mind is placed onto Ishvara's glories, it is less extroverted, thinking about what? Constant Saguna after Saguna. So in other words, it stops entertaining different features about the world and it starts to look deeper at what is the essence of these features. So this means it makes the mind more subtle, and that makes it more available for discriminating viveka between Atma and Anatma. And the second benefit is for a jnani also, because a jnani sees no contradiction between saguna and nirguna. So you can't now say a jnani has no need to meditate and contemplate on different vibhutis, because the essence of all vibhutis is ultimately resolving in sat-chit. And sat-chit is nirguna, which was mentioned in verse 20 and 39. And the second point of chapter 10 is that nobody can claim glories as either mine or somebody else's. That means if I see a glory that's someone else, some brilliance, I cannot say it's their glory, because what does that say? My thinking is not full. I have not understood what it means to say Ishvara's glories, because that is also nimitta karanam, upadana karanam. If you think about it, even the ability to appreciate glories, even that is Ishvara's glory. Because you need the electrical impulses firing, and I'm not moving my electrical impulses, it's happening by itself. Or even the ability to be jealous of somebody else's glories, that is also because of Ishvara's glories. So either way, I'm totally, as a person, dependent on Ishvara's glories. So there's no question of jealousy here. So the true bhakta is the one who is completely free of jealousy, because they have this vision. And what is jealousy? Jealousy is just anger introverted. Anger is basically a negative emotion extroverted, but anger introverted is called jealousy. It includes things like irrationality, that means being irrational towards other people, not willing to see them in their true light. I'm being stubborn, I'm not willing to accept their point of view. So I'm keeping my point of view and I'm keeping your point of view separate from mine because there's a difference there and I don't want to accept yours. That is also jealousy. That means this power struggle happens sometimes between relationships. And it can also be unwillingness to embrace another human being. That means I don't want to embrace you for your brilliance. So then what do? I project that you are lesser. That way I feel better. That's the strategy, how a person sort of puts a band-aid on. Now, how does one remove jealousy? Because jealousy does come in different forms, in the form of inadequacy or superiority. And it's actually very common because it may not be very obvious. At least the worldly people, they make it so obvious. At least they say something. But then there's this other side, this more sophisticated intellect where it hides and you can't really pick it out. So there is a way to eliminate this using pure logic. And it goes like this. If you look at a eagle ability to fly, that's a vibhuti, right? Can we be jealous of that? Does a human being ever look at an eagle and go, I'm so jealous of that bird?
Yeah, you
No.
can.
Generally.
Okay.
Okay.
I suppose it's jealous is not the right word too.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I wish I could, but you're not having this any you don't want to like just shoot down the bird because it's so brilliant, right? So if we see the birds, the eagle to hone in on the fish, we go, I'm so jealous of that. I want to destroy that eagle, so I can feel better about myself. Why are we not jealous of the eagle's ability to fly?
Because we've got other attributes which we consider higher.
Because the bird is unlike us. In other words, you can never be jealous of something that is unlike you, unlike the human being. And if it is unlike, what do we end up doing? We end up appreciating that vibhuti. So because when you look at a bird, we all, hey, come. You know when you see the group of birds flying in a formation, do you ever get jealous with that? Like, we human beings are so not like that. I wish I could be with my family just moving in sync. No, we actually completely go, wow, look at that. And I find it just completely fascinating. Why do we find it fascinating and not get jealous? Because we know that object, that entity is unlike me as a human being. So this means jealousy is not possible with an unlike. It is only possible with a like, a similar. Even
like sports people, one would compare themselves with another sports person.
Good, very good, yeah. In other words, can a soccer player be jealous of a netballer, or one who plays netball? No, because they're unlike in their capacities at least. But only two soccer players can be jealous of each other. So, dissimilarity, no jealousy possible. Similarity, jealousy possible. That's the first logic. Second question is, can a human being be jealous of Ishvara? It's such a weird question to ask, isn't it? It's like it's never been asked before. Huh?
We are called human beings because of Ishvara.
Yeah.
How can we be jealous of it?
Good. Yeah, but see, even if you've got no education in this Vedanta or any religion, it's just not even like nobody comprehends. I am jealous of God's ability to create this universe and to destroy this universe, and to give so much birth to all of these and to sustain them. It's just like so weird to bring that question up. So what does this mean? It means intrinsically every human being already knows that the Jiva and Ishvara are not similar in capacities. So this means there has to be an inherent dissimilarity between capacity. I did not say essence, Lloyd. I said capacity. Capacity means Ishvara is the whole. That means all knowledge, all power. I'm not talking about consciousness. But in terms of capacities, definitely. I'm just a human being. I last for a short time, but Ishvara is permanent. He is, eternal. So in that aspect, we all know there is a dissimilarity. Now, question 3. What is the truth of every single human being with extraordinary, brilliant capacity? Ishvara. In other words, the very same Ishvara, which we now just said, is impossible to be jealous of. So whenever we see a human being and we get jealous, what does this mean?
Being jealous of Ishvara.
Yeah. It means I'm being jealous of Ishvara, and that is why it brings pain to the individual who is jealous, because they're going, and what is Ishvara? Atman. They are being jealous of self, of myself. Therefore, they experience this sense of smallness. So what else does this mean? It means that if I am jealous of a human being, I'm only giving reality or seeing what? Apara prakriti. I'm missing out on para prakriti. What else does it mean? It means that I'm only seeing mithya appearances and I am taking them as an absolute satyam. That means I see mithya as satyam. And what does this do? It causes me then to make and create security in this mithya world. That means I then end up stocking up, stockpiling, because this world is absolute satyam. So therefore, how do I now preserve my reality, which is the absolute? I end up doing all these irrational things in order to create a sense of security, which is why I call jealousy irrationality. Therefore, I do not know para prakriti, atman, self, if I experience any sign of jealousy. So what does this mean? It means jealousy is one of the fastest barometers to let the person know whether this knowledge, atma jnanam, is paroksha jnanam or aparoksha jnanam. Is it still intellectual or is it embodied? Is it real? Is it solid? Is it non-separate from my understanding? So jealousy, even that becomes an extremely potent barometer to see where we are in terms of our progress. So this is not to be taken out personally, oh, I'm experiencing a little bit of jealousy. It's an excellent way to see, okay, good, so I've got something to work on. And how do we work on? How do we extinguish jealousy? Well, the same question can apply when we say, how do you fall in love?
You just fall in love. You know what it teaches you.
Yeah, but you initially you force yourself. Because if you think about it, someone wants you or someone is attracted to you, then we sort of go, well, I don't, you sort of like force yourself, because sometimes you just don't want to go out on a date because there's no connection there on the beginning. So at the beginning, we do what? We force ourselves, and then eventually through forcing ourselves, we release the barriers, and then we fall in love. But how do we fall in love? Because we took the initiative to go out even though we didn't feel like it. Because initially, you know how it is when you meet a person, there's some skepticism, I'm not so sure, this is what I'm busy, right? But you still go through that process, and then the barriers fall down, and then the love, is apparent. In the same way, I force myself to see Ishvara Vibhutis in anything that I am jealous of. So whenever I see, I wish I could talk that good, I wish I could sing that good, what do? You force yourself initially to appreciate how is this Ishvara's expression of nimitta karanam, upadana karanam. So this means for every negative thought towards another individual, I then I forcefully create a thought to see how this is Ishvara's vibhuti. Eventually what happens? Just like we force ourselves to spend time with another human being, we automatically fall in love. We don't need to preserve that anymore. It's not an effort. So in the same way, by forcing ourselves initially, we automatically, spontaneously start to see vibhutis in all individuals, in all objects in this world. And one of the most common forms of jealousies is if someone else is popular in some form of another. For example, they have more fans, more followers, more luck. Just to show you how unnecessary popularity is, Swami Dayananda, the teacher in the middle, he said that popularity is actually disadvantageous because to be popular, you're constantly required to extrovert your mind. So this means I need a lot of Raja Guna. And I need to spend a lot of time with people and constantly attending to meetings and being in front of the people. So this means I have less time for myself, less time to think deeper, and more time to relate to the general population, which is primarily Raja Guna. So in this way, being popular actually is not that profound in the one who is popular, because they have to stay very extroverted to relate to those people. So being popular is not always the best thing, because then I have to lower my intelligence, I have to lower my profound knowledge to appeal to the masses. And another reason is if you, for example, go to a zoo and you see a gorilla, what's the gorilla doing? Nothing. Just chewing leaves, right? And how many visitors see this gorilla in one day? At least 1,000, right? Because a big gorilla standing there, you want to see a gorilla. So the gorilla is very popular, right? Okay, in other words, I don't have to do anything today to be popular. But what does it say about my knowledge, about my intellect? Nothing. So therefore, there is no sense in being popular. It means nothing. It's meaningless today, especially in the world of extroversion and entertainment and so on. Finally, how do you know if this Bhagavad Gita knowledge is working on your antahkarana? How do we know that it's taking hold?
When we find ourselves thinking of Bhagavan most times.
Good, yeah. So both peace and Bhagavan is a result of something else, a thought process which has led to both peace and thinking of Bhagavan. In other words, before, the world was just the world. You just stay at surface level. That's all I see. Let's talk about the singer. Let's talk about what they're singing. Let's talk about their wealth. So we stay at very, very obvious. There's no depth there at all. After Bhagavad Gita, perception changes. I no longer see the world as the world. I see the world as Bhagavan's vibhutis, as Bhagavan's glories. And that comes how? That comes through practice. How does this practice come? Through objectivity. What does objectivity mean? The vision of Vedanta is objectivity, so it's a very important word. Okay, remember gold? And what is the empirical value of the gold? Rust-free, malleable, rare, yellow. So I stop there. Now, what does it mean to go further? I then go, well, okay, that's true, but also it means respect. It means money. It means status. So all of these later on are all subjective. They're all what? Coming from my own ideas. So what does objectivity mean? I see the empirical value of the world and I stop there. I refuse to go further because going further equals raga, dvesha has come into the picture. Now my own likes and dislikes are now talking. Stay at the empirical value and refuse to add personal value onto the subject matter. So what does it mean to be an objective person in life? It means to be mature. That's the difference between a child who's always generating opinions about everything all day long and a mind that's able to stop at what actually is the matter. There is alertness of your thought process. I am mindful that my thought process doesn't slip and start generating personal opinions about other people. I'm looking at my own thought process as though being my own psychologist.
But isn't it something also, like if you're driving a car and some guy goes shh, 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 and he's going ahead,
Yeah.
and running, so that's an idiot, you know?
What's watching his feet?
He's smart. He's smart because he's doing, you know.
Yeah, okay.
How you being defensive?
Yeah, but see, that's actually a good point because often when we see someone going fast on the road and illustrate this aggressiveness, often we say, what a uncaring person.
Well, short form, idiot. Because he doesn't care about other people's lives.
Yeah, right, what an
Selfish.
idiot, right?
Yeah.
However, how do you know that this person is maybe going to the hospital? Okay, so objectivity is staying very mindful of one's thought process towards worldly events, towards other people's feelings, towards other people's thoughts, towards the world at large or the world in a small scale, and refusing to add an extra opinion onto it because that opinion is called pratibhasika, that is called superimposition of my own notions based on raga, dvesha. In other words, the person has a need to color in the conversation. For example, we got two types of people. We'll call the first objective person. Suppose Lloyd is very objective, and we ask, hey, how was your holiday in Hawaii? And then Lloyd says, well, I went on the airport, there was screening, I went through the security, I had a hamburger with my wife, and my children were there. And then we landed on the airport. I was surprised how tough the security is there. It's quite, it's a lot more than in Australia. And then we went to a yellow bus. The yellow bus took us to a hotel called the XYZ Hotel. We came up to the elevator on number 5, and we opened up the window, and we saw the ocean. The ocean, we heard the sounds of the ocean, and we also looked down and we saw people walking, and there were some children walking. Boring. There was exactly. Okay, so the point is, the more boring you are, the more objective you are. Now, version B. Okay, hey, how was Hawaii, right? Now you can really go subjective, right? Oh my God, it was heaven on earth. It's so delicious, and I felt embodied by this water, like God is taking me. And then, we sat down and we drank some cocktails, and then we had so much fun. It was the best holiday in the world. Oh my God, right? So version A, objective, boring. Version B, very exciting. Why? Because it tickles my senses. And what is a Rajaguna mind? The one that wants its senses tickled. And what is the majority of this world? Rajaguna. Therefore, whenever you are boring, that is probably good. Okay, because the one's being objective. So you have to decide, do I want to be objective and stay clear, sensitive, sharp? Or do I want to desensitize my mind and appear very interesting to people? You have to make that decision. Or you can make...
It doesn't have to be black and white.
Okay, good.
You can slip into the grey zone and be appropriate at the appropriate time.
Yeah. I was going to just bring that. Or I said, or you can alternate between and find your own balance in between. Yeah.
As long as you don't get lost yourself.
Yeah, but I'm just giving you a very strong contrast between the two. Okay. So that's objectivity versus subjectivity. Attava bahunaitena kim nyatena tavarjuna vishtabhyaham idam kritsnam ekam shenastito jagat.
On the other hand, by this incomplete knowledge of manifold things, what is accomplished for you, Arjuna? May you know fully that I remain pervading this entire world with one part of myself.
Up to verse 41, Krishna was saying, I am in every vibhuti. I am in Ganga, Himalaya, I am in Vak, the speech, Yamuna, I am in Japa. So every vibhuti we mentioned, I am in that. So Krishna is now saying, what's the point of knowing so many things? Because you have to learn about what japa is. You have to learn about the Gayatri mantra, the Gayatri verse. So you have to learn about all of these things. And now Krishna says, what's the point about knowing so many things? Because my list is endless. We've only touched this like infinitesimal small part of my vibhutis. So in verse 42, Krishna now says, or he refines our vision and he says, Arjuna, all of these vibhutis are in me. Whether I have listed them or not, whether they are known or unknown, they are all in me. So instead of saying, for example, the water is in the froth, the water is in the waves, the water is in the bubbles, the water is in, what else is it in? Now I have to find out. I have to now search, right? So in other words, I have to know about what froth is. I have to know about what a wave is. I have to know about what a bubble is. Instead of saying that, just say the waves, the bubble, the froth, and so many more things that I am yet to learn, yet to discover, and will probably never discover in my lifetime. All of that is in the water. In other words, what's the point of knowing? What will you accomplish by knowing about the Ganga, the Gayatri mantra, the japa, and all of these other things, when you can just look at it in a different way, that this entire world of infinite vibhutis is in me. Aham idam kritsnam jagat vishtabhya astitaha. So, I remain, says Ishvara, I remain supporting the Jagat of infinite vibhutis. Example, this wall remains supporting infinite projections on this wall. This wall never changes, and it is only because of this wall remaining as it is, nirguna, attributeless, that it can host multitudes of saguna attributes on this wall. For example, space remains space, attributeless. And even while it supports all of the objects accommodated by this space, space still remains space. Whatever you put in space or don't put in space, space remains space. It never gets contaminated by an explosion or flowers or some nice smell or some aroma, whether air is in space or vacuum in space, it doesn't matter. Space remains space. So it is impartial knowledge to say that space is within this room. It is impartial knowledge to say Atman is in this body. Because in reality, all of the rooms are in one space. Whether the space outside the edges of this house or inside this room, suppose the dining room is one person, the toilet is the other person, the bedroom is another person, the lounge is another person, all of them attributeless space, the same attributeless space as outside the edges of the house. In other words, all space remains the same. Therefore, in the same way, it is not correct to say Ishvara is inside the jivas. Incorrect. It is correct to say jivas are inside Ishvara. Okay. Yeah, so in other words, Krishna is refining our vision further to understand this vision of oneness. And what is the truth of Ishvara? Brahman. Awareness. So again, what is a jiva? Body, mind complex. 3 shariras, okay, Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira, or the 5 koshas. All of that is in Ishvara. And what's the truth of Ishvara? Atman, the very consciousness because of which I aware. I aware the thoughts of the jiva's Sukshma Sharira. I aware the pain and the pleasure or the sensations experienced by the jiva's Sthula Sharira. And I aware the external world called Jagat. And that awareness is the one, as though the one attributeless space, which is the same for every single individual. So the only thing that is different is what? The mind, which that awareness is awareing. So for one person, the mind is different. For another person, the mind is different. So therefore, they both experience. They experience themselves as themselves. But what on top of that they experience? The different contents of the Sthula Sharira and the Sukshma Sharira. In other words, they experience a different person. Why? Because the person is made up of the mind and the body. Therefore, they have both experience of themselves as themselves, because consciousness is one. But on top of that, the superimposition called upadhi is the body-mind complex, which makes their experience as though different between one and the other. Or for example, suppose that you are a trailer. You know, the moving trailers. So inside that trailer is space. And that trailer is parked outside. That means it is accommodated by space. What happens when that trailer moves from position 1 to position 2? Is the space over there different than it was over there? No. But what is different? The environment. In other words, I experience a different environment. Therefore, I talk about the environment which is awared by Atman, consciousness. Therefore, what remains the same over there and over there? The very awareness, the illuminating principle, which was there illuminating that mind in that environment, in those conditions, and is still illuminating the same mind in different environment, in a different condition. So the awareness stays the same, but the conditions of the body, that means the Sthula Sharira and the Sukshma Sharira, the mind, are constantly modifying. And lastly, Krishna says, the Jagat, that means includes the known and the unknown, that means the entire universe that we experience, that we see and that we talk about and that we try to explore in different levels, is only occupying one infinitesimal part of me. In other words, all 14 lokas that we talk about in Puranas and more universes, infinite universes, are as though a little bubble in the entire ocean. So go to the ocean now, and all we see, how much can we see? We can see a little bit, which is nothing compared to the whole ocean. But even though you see a little bit, just still walk up to the ocean and look at one little bubble in the water that you see. That one little bubble includes all of the 14 lokas, the entire universe, known and the unknown. Inside what? Ishvara. And that Ishvara, what's the truth of Ishvara? Brahman. That Brahman, Tattvamasi, you are. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.